Okay, so for some people, the source of their data is not always organized and unique. They may have multiple sources, and they may also just have a lot of duplicate data. So I have this new file here. I've sorted it by email, and we can already see that there's a lot of duplicate data. We can see duplicate emails, duplicate names here, and even through the accounts, we can see data that's similar and may possibly be a duplicate, but have different names. So Sosa Ltd, Sosa Ltd, Ltd, right? That's most likely a duplicate entry. So we can use Zoho Data Prep to kind of clean out duplicate data from both the columns and the rows. So we're going to take some steps to do that. The first thing we're going to do is remove these variants within the account column. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on the account to open up the tools dropdown. So I click right up there, select cluster and merge. And now we can see some clusters and some clusters opened up here. So we go through the clusters and we can optimize the value for each cluster to something that we want it to be. If something is in a cluster that shouldn't be there, you can always remove it. And if something is not taking the right name that you want it to, you can always change that as well. So let's just go through these for a bit. So I have Thomas, Harris, and Garner, Thomas, Ho, and Baker, Ltd, Thomas, Ho, and Baker. Most likely, I think this Thomas, Harris, and Garner is not really the same as Thomas, Ho, and Baker. It could be, but I would rather not take that chance and lose out my data. So I'm just going to remove that from the cluster. And then I'm going to change what I'm replacing these two names with. So I want it to be Thomas, Ho, and Baker, Ltd. Next, we kind of have the same option here with Anderson, LLC, and Anderson, Baker, and Sampson. I don't believe that this will be part of it, so I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to change this to Anderson, Baker, and Sampson, Ltd. Once again, William and Lopez. Want it to be the Ltd. Bradford and Garcia, that one's good. This one looks fine. This one, I'm just going to remove the cluster altogether. I don't think it's necessary. Changing this. And so you're starting to get the picture. So I'm going to go through the rest of these and join with you when I'm done. Okay, so now I've removed all the clusters, changed all the clusters where I wanted them to. One thing to note is that you can change the algorithm that the clusters are found on. You might want to do that if maybe you find that the clusters being selected aren't really good, but in most cases, you probably just leave it alone, leave it as Metaphone, and go through the clusters and then apply. So now I've applied this. Now we can see that Sosa Ltd is no longer Sosa Ltd Ltd. We have both of them being the same. So now within our column, we've actually managed to remove the duplicates. Now let's try and remove duplicate rows. So to do that, we're going to click the transform button on the top right beside Ask Zia. We're going to click transform. Now there's a button called deduplicate. We're going to go there. And then we can choose either row-wise or column-wise. We're going to choose row-wise. This is going to remove all duplicate rows from our data. So we're going to select that. We want to ignore case, ignore white space. We'll find on my data it's not going to change much, but maybe on yours it might. Basically, what we're saying is that if there's a different casing in any of the columns or random white space in any of the columns, consider it as the same. So once we do that, this may update or not, but I'm pretty sure for mine, it's going to say the same. And then, so now look at all this duplicate data. We're going to remove all of that very easily just by pressing the remove duplicates. Okay, so you might be left with some data now that where you do see it is a duplicate, but you didn't get it removed when you were trying to remove row-wise. The reason for that is that when you're removing data duplicates row-wise, it's looking for exact matches. And so if you don't have an exact match, it's not going to flag that. I think in some cases, a lot of people may have like some rows where data is missing and other rows where data is filled in. And so it might not flag those two as being duplicates of each other because the rows aren't exactly the same. And so unfortunately, data prep doesn't have a very good way of handling that, maybe even merging out the data between rows. But we can, depending on your destination, if you are merging it into Zoho CRM, Zoho CRM has a tool that is going to help you take care of that as well. So we can do that there. Okay, so I did just want to bring your attention to duplication column-wise and kind of bring your attention to why you might not want to use it. As I said before, Zoho doesn't really have a way of distinguishing between rows and maybe merging out that data. So let's just jump right into it. So right now we see we do have still some duplicate data left on the email field. So we do have some duplicates. Now, if I go and click transform, deduplicate column-wise, I can deduplicate through this email field. But before I do that, let's preview it. And so what you'll notice is that it doesn't necessarily matter what the data integrity is of the fields that you're removing. It's more so whatever field came first, that's the one that they're removing. So we can see here, Douglas Ross, the account is empty here, but it's filled here. But the ones marked in red are the ones that we're removing. So it's mostly just whatever one came first, that's what's labeled as the master record, and then the other ones are deleted. Perhaps there is a use case for this somewhere, maybe if you don't really care about what fields you have and you just want to make sure that there is no duplicates, then you can definitely use this. But I think for most people, you definitely care about the data that you're storing. You want it to be filled in as much as possible, and you don't want to lose any data between fields. So for that reason, I suggest using the Zoho merge tool when you merge your data into CRM, and we'll get into that a bit later.